Señor Rothschild, ¿cómo le va? ¿Podría comentarnos qué temas han tratado este año en la reunión de Bilderberg? Disculpe. ¿Qué temas han tratado este año en Bilderberg? Pero si yo no he ido a esa reunión. ¿Este año no estuve en Bilderberg? No. ¿Y el año pasado? No, el año pasado tampoco fui. Creo que fue mi primo. ¿Su primo estuvo ahí? Sí. Ok, buenas noches. ¿Usted tiene algunos minutos, señor Rothschild? Es que tenemos unas cuantas preguntas. Yo le quería preguntar sobre lo que se dice de la Reserva Federal. Es una organización que... Lo sé. Es una organización que mucha gente considera que es la fuente de proyectos inhumanos por todo el mundo, porque es un banco privado que principalmente es manejado por su familia. No, eso es completamente falso. Ya lo he dicho antes, eso no es así. No es así. ¿Y usted no sabe de dónde viene esa información? Isla Jekyll, 1913, señor. Nosotros podríamos hablar sobre cómo es que su familia cometió tantos crímenes en contra de la sociedad, pero también queremos que sepa que nosotros sabemos que el nuevo orden mundial es ilegítimo. ¿Por qué? Queremos que sepa que nosotros como pueblo no les tenemos miedo y nos estamos despertando ante los ladrones y banqueros que están hundiendo la economía con la Reserva Federal. Bueno. Antes de que termines de ver esta entrevista, me gustaría hacer dos anotaciones. Primero, en realidad me ha sorprendido la reacción de este reconocido banquero. Se nota que es capaz de controlar sus emociones. En ningún momento se enoja ni los insulta, como es el caso de otros famosos que viven en la sombra. Además, fíjate que va solo. Parece que no tiene miedo a sufrir algún tipo de ataque. Y cuando estos desconocidos le dicen queremos hacerle unas preguntas, él regresa como dispuesto a contestar. Pero ahí viene mi crítica a los periodistas, ya que pudieron sacar algo más. Creo que actuaron como denunciantes del mundo, que no está mal, pero como entrevistadores debieron tratar de obtener algunas respuestas. Queremos que sepa que nosotros como pueblo no les tenemos miedo y nos estamos despertando ante los ladrones y banqueros que están hundiendo la economía con la Reserva Federal. Bueno. La familia Rothschild sí fundó la Reserva Federal. Su familia primero dividió Europa, luego tomaron el control de toda Europa cuando Napoleón... Está usted exagerando. ¿No va a decir nada al respecto, señor? Este video fue grabado en 2012 por We Are Change, que es una organización de medios independientes que trabajan para exponer la corrupción a nivel mundial. Buscan exponer las mentiras de los gobiernos y la élite corporativa que constantemente destruyen nuestra humanidad. Me gustaría decir que los objetivos de esta organización son muy parecidos a los de Top 10.
Senator Rockefeller? Yes. I'd like to know if you're aware that we, the American people, are aware of the agenda of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Bilderberg Group. And if you could comment on that, please, because very concerning to a lot of us.
You know, I have 37 people lined up right outside Senator Schumer's office, all of them wanting to answer precisely that question.
Well, could you just take a brief moment and let us...
No, because we're not talking, we're talking about something we didn't have...
Well, something that's so important, it sort of transcends everything else that we're talking about, sir. Could you comment on that, please?
No.
I'd like to know about the Bilderberg Group.
Get yourself some credentials.
I'd like to know about the Bilderberg Group, sir.
Well, that's not part of our discussion.
When can we discuss that with you, sir?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and this is for the senator. This is the scientific proof of the nanothermite that's been found in multiple samples of the Rothschild Center dust by scientists from around the world. Basically, conclusive proof that there's an Article 3, Section 3 treasonous cover-up going on about 9/11, sir. So
We'd love to get your opinion on that, too,
wait,
sir.
what did you say?
Excuse me, please. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Your family starting the modern eugenics movement.
Let's call him Miss Christian.
Started eugenics. Hitler looked up to the eugenics that your family have started.
Okay, sir.
I think it's time for me to really start moving quickly.
Yeah.
You could just address some of these things. If we're wrong, sir, please just tell us.
No, go find somebody else to talk to.
But your family didn't start the modern eugenics movement that Hitler is looking up to. And you don't want to talk about the Bilderberg Group? Well, what about the
You got
Certainly do.
Congress, you got a lot of balls.
eugenics as well?
The truth is coming out, and there's a lot of us that are aware of it.
I'm sure you know some members, sir, if you're not a member yourself.
President Obama's Director of National Intelligence, Admiral Blair, who I greatly respect, have labeled cybersecurity perpetrated through the Internet as the #1 national hazard of attack on the homeland in West Virginia, in West Virginia, America, anywhere else. So, I mean, it really almost makes you ask the question, would it have been better if we never invented the Internet?
wanted to ask you a few questions, if I may, for the camera.
No.
None at all?
No.
I just wondered what you thought about the current austerity plan that we're going through in this country.
I don't think that might be terribly interesting.
You don't think so? But you're a Rothschild. I think you have knowledge of such things, such as finances.
Next time.
New World Order, Mr. Rothschild?
What?
New World Order? Depopulation?
Oh, listen, who are you...
Genocide?
Who are you televising for?
Well, we're independent filmmakers. But you have nothing to say, Mr. Rothschild?
Have a nice life, sir. And a nice death.
Well done. Batman.
Jacob Rothschild. Jacob, thank you for coming.
Not at all.
I know how proud you are to be Jewish.
Yes.
I know how Zionist you are.
Right.
And I know that it comes from the family, but it's also very personal for you. And I also know that you didn't grow up actually in a very Jewish environment. So I want to understand, what does it mean for you to be Jewish?
I mean, if you look at my family history, my father, although he wasn't religious, he was interested in Jewish life. He was involved in Israel. He went to the Weizmann Institute often. He didn't bring his children up to be very aware of that. And it really wasn't until later in life, my early 20s, that I became close to my cousin, Mrs. James de Rothschild, who was rather orthodox. And she invited me to join the board of Yad Hanadiv, which I did, when we had 4 people. And that was more than 50 years ago. And since then, the responsibility for which he'd really trained me is one I've discharged to the best of my abilities. And we now have 45 people in Jerusalem and a large number of projects, including the project which I've been now working on for 15 years, which is the new National Library in Israel. So yeah, I'm deeply involved, not so much because I'm religious, but because I have this wholly strong identification with being a Jew and with the country of Israel. One of the reasons for that is...
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Are we going to go in?
Yeah.
After you. Can we walk there?
Okay.
Then
Wanna
the
go that
next
way?
room we go
Yeah.
to is the breakfast room.
So you have a breakfast room, a lunch room, a dinner room?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
How many rooms are there in this?
I think altogether there are about 150 rooms. You know, at the time the house was built, Paris was being kind of remodeled by housemen. So a lot of the old houses in Paris were being pulled down. And what Baron Ferdinand did was to rescue the woodwork, what we call the boiserie in French.
Okay.
And then he fitted that woodwork into the rooms here to give it the feeling of being a French chateau.
So what he do was he basically have them peeled off and then send them to here?
That's right. He would buy them in Paris and then bring them here and install them in the rooms. And
that's part of the exhibition.
This is interesting. In earlier times in Europe, in the 17th and 18th century, very often tabletops for dinner parties were adorned with linen made into sculpture.
Oh.
In fact, a friend of mine came here the other day. He was giving a dinner party at Spencer House in about 10 days' time. And you see the napkins made out of birds?
Yeah. Oh. 看这是餐巾布做的.
He ordered 200 of those for his dinner party.
Wow.
Then if you come through here,
Okay.
and then in here you would have musicians who would play before dinner and sometimes during dinner.
Okay.
Why was it that this letter was sent by the Foreign Secretary to your great-uncle Walter?
It's an interesting question because he was really interested in ornithology, although he became interested in Zionism. I think the reason was this, that it was primarily a movement from Eastern Europe, but they didn't clarify who was in charge of that movement. And in addition, it was, after all, in Great Britain.
So they felt that the Rothschild family should be the one to whom it was addressed. And Walter was Lord Rothschild, and he was a Zionist. And those really are the background reasons.
So Walter received the Balfour Declaration, and I have a copy here. And I wonder if I could possibly ask you to read it for us.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I'm going to put on my spectacles to make sure I read it accurately. His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment of Palestine as a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours, Arthur Balfour.
And here it is, the Balfour Declaration. What do you feel when you see it here?
I genuinely feel it's one of the most extraordinary moments in the history of the Jewish people. If you think it took 3,000 years to get to this.
And of course the Rothschild family then as now filled two roles, because it wasn't just a leader of diaspora Jewry, it also played a very significant role in the early years of the establishment of the pioneer communities in Israel as well. I just want to revisit for a moment your cousin Dorothy, who you mentioned, who at an extraordinarily young age, still in her teens, played such a critical role as a go-between and a facilitator for Chaim Weizmann. Can you say a little bit about that?
Well, she married my cousin Jimmy when she was 17.
So this is your cousin Dorothy, Dolly.
Yep, Mrs. James de Rothschild.
And from her teenage years onwards, she was a major supporter of Israel, wasn't she?
Major supporter. I mean, she worshipped her husband, who'd been deeply committed, son of Baron Edmore. It was due to him, I think, that she became interested. But once she became interested, she became passionately interested. After his death, she became even more committed. She just wanted to carry out his wishes and what he cared deeply about. And you can read letters from her to Weizmann and from Weizmann to her when she was only 17. And what she did, which was crucially important, was to connect up Weizmann with the British establishment.
I think she also trained him in how to deal. She helped educate how to
and it's
conduct
extraordinary
himself.
at that age, but she did sort of tell Weizmann.
The two of you, when you were a leader at Chase Manhattan and he was governor, were responsible for really the World Trade Center.
We worked together on that.
Yeah. What do you think should be done now? What would David Rockefeller like to see happen in the wake of 9/11?
I think that one shouldn't rush to do something quickly and without recognizing what the needs of these downtown are today. When we built it 30 years ago, the two towers, we built them because we felt, after a lot of careful study by the Downtown Lower Manhattan Association that I chaired and started, we were convinced there was a need to focus more on trade, which had always been the heart of New York's business, and that there was no center for that trade, and therefore the World Trade Center, which was built by the Port of New York Authority, sponsored by both my brother Nelson, who was then governor of New York, and the governor of New Jersey, and the mayor of New York, Bob Wagner. I think it was the right thing to do at that time.